Picking your neighborhood is one of the hardest tasks that a new buyer needs to do when they're moving to an area, particularly if they don't know all of the different neighborhoods. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about how to pick the best neighborhood for you. Stay tuned. What is going on? It is Andrew and
AJ
with the Emerald Group right here in beautiful Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Listen, we're getting calls, texts, and emails pretty consistently of people wanting to move to our area. So if that sounds like you, then all of our contact information is on the screen. So go ahead and reach out and let us know how we can help.
We are doing videos every week from Pensacola to Panama City Beach because everything in there and in between is what we cover for you guys. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ding the bell so that you get notified every time we do another video if you have any questions or interest in our area.
So picking a neighborhood is obviously a very daunting task for a lot of people. There's a lot of questions to ask because you want to make sure that you're getting in a neighborhood that's right for you and not just a neighborhood just to be in a neighborhood. So we're going to go through the following questions. Feel free to write these down or just keep them in the back of your mind when you're searching for the right neighborhood for you.
One of the first things that we always tell our buyers to consider is location and proximity. So yes, neighborhoods themselves are very important, but you still want to find a neighborhood within a specific location. And things that you should be considering for the location of your potential choosing is the proximity to the places that you're going to be going the most frequently, right? So to work, or if you're like a frequent beach goer, as many of us are, then the beaches. If you have children, then proximities to the schools of your choosing. If you're very specific on which school you want your child to go to or children, then definitely do your research, figure out which ones, where their school zones are, and make sure that you're in a neighborhood within those zones.
And if the neighborhood that you fall in love with doesn't fall in that school district zone, it might be worthwhile to call that school and say, hey, are we able to be outside of the school zone district if I drive my child in versus taking the bus? And of course, you have to be willing to be able to do that in order for that to make sense.
And consider that drive and which direction is it compared to where you work. Are you going to be traveling two separate, complete opposite directions? How's that going to work on your clock in time and what have you? And also traffic rhythms, because that could become really not fun really quickly. Especially
here in our area, we do, as anybody that's been following our channel a lot, we do have a bunch of small traffic patterns that can just get disrupted pretty easily. Although, I feel like we complain about the traffic a lot, and I don't really feel like it's that bad. Every time I go to a big city, I'm like, man, we have nothing to complain about.
Continuing on this proximity pattern, consider, where do you like to shop? Are you like an Aldi's person? Are you a Publix person, a Walmart person? How close are you to where you're going to do the majority of your shopping? Or maybe you're like me and you're an Instacart girl, so it doesn't really matter how close or far you are because you're not driving there anyways. But maybe you like going out to dinner, and you have a favorite restaurant that you're going to want to go to very frequently, or maybe some hobbies. Maybe you want to be close to a golf course or tennis courts, things of that nature.
So transitioning from proximity, and I guess this is kind of on that subject too, is what do you want the feel of your neighborhood to be? Do you want it to be right in the heart of town where you're right next to the nightlife and the restaurants and everything? You can literally take a golf cart to, or a quick Uber ride to, or drive, obviously, walk, whatever. Or do you want to be, out in the boondocks a little bit? Is boondocks, is that a good word for this? Yeah, boondocks or whatever. But outside of town a little bit, have a little bit of room to spread out, and it will take you a little bit further to get to some of the stuff that you might like, shopping, restaurants, things like that. But if that is not a very big part of your daily life, then maybe, getting outside the city a little bit more will be helpful.
And definitely going online and checking lot sizes, how big are the lots in a specific neighborhood to know, are you going to get a house with quite a bit of a yard or a smaller yard? Because maybe you don't want to spend that much time on a yard like me, because you don't have a whole lot of time. You don't want to pay somebody a ton of money for a yard you're barely going to spend any time in. Or maybe you got a couple of kids and you're like, I know I need a place for their bouncy castle and for their trampoline. And so I need a yard because eventually they're going to grow up and I'm going to want a pool because that's what they're going to transition into wanting to play with at that point. point, different kinds of settings there. And speaking of different neighborhoods and feels of them, also, are you going to want like an older neighborhood, something that's already established? The neighbors all know each other. There's like a neighborhood crime watch, you've got grandma at the end of the road who knows everybody and everything that goes on. Or do you want like a newer development where everybody's still kind of getting the feel of everything? Everything's brand new. There are sidewalks and everything is manicured. What are you looking for there?
And each different neighborhood's going to have a different, we'll call it safety level. And even though it's not generally a subject that we touch on too much in this because we are licensed real estate professionals, it's one of the no-go topics for us, it is really good for you to do your research on that. So checking out things like when you're driving the neighborhood or checking out the neighborhood on Google Maps or something like that. Do they have streetlights? Do they have sidewalks? Is everything upkept? Do you see any graffiti, any cars on blocks? Things like that might indicate, okay, this isn't the same aesthetic or safe neighborhood that I was looking for, or maybe it's right up your alley.
And you can always double check what you see with your eyes with what you see online on the local PD crime map. So you can just look up whatever area that you're looking at, whether it be Navarre, Fort Walton Beach, and just go to the police department's website, go to their crime map, and just zoom into the different areas. Everything will be color coded to show higher levels versus lower levels of crime, so you can kind of get a feel for those areas as well.
Just make sure that if you are going to use any of these programs or websites, that you actually zoom in, because if you just look at it from an overall standpoint, it's going to look like a ton of stuff happened. But once you zoom in, you might see, okay, this one was a drunk driver, which I guess isn't that great. This one was just like, somebody doing something minor. This person stole a tricycle. Things like that are much more different than there was a double homicide going on in this area. So make sure that you look into that so that you know that it's not just fluttered with crime. Because if you look at any populated area on those maps and just stay up here in the map, it's going to look like there are a ton of things wrong in that neighborhood.
And moving on to using your eyes again, as opposed to just, what the internet will provide, go ahead and drive these neighborhoods. If you think you've picked out a couple that you're really interested in, go ahead and drive them. Drive them during the day. Drive them, go to them during traffic peak times, and also at night and when it rains. And I mean pours for 4 or 5 days. If you have the opportunity, maybe you're a local and you're looking to buy something else that's more suitable for you right now. Check out the grounds, is everything super flooded, or is it staying relatively dry? Is the water getting all the way up to the houses, or is it staying back down by the streets? These are going to tell you right off the bat what is up with that neighborhood in terms of, what people are doing at night and what the rain is doing in the area.
Yeah, especially in our area, that's a really big thing, or really any place that rains quite a lot. Checking it out during the rain is a very, very good idea. And if you are fortunate enough to be able to drive the neighborhood, a big suggestion from us is to also talk to some of the people. Maybe if they're out walking their dog, going out for a jog, maybe not a jog because they're probably pretty busy. But if they're just going for a walk with their pup or something like that, this is a great opportunity to talk to the neighbors, see what they feel about the neighborhood. How long have they lived there? Have they seen anything weird? And then if you don't know some of the answers to some of the other questions, you might be able to ask them some of the questions that we're talking about here.
I actually just used this method yesterday. I was looking at a house that I was considering buying, and one of the neighbors was walking by and just stopped him, and he looked nice enough, and I was like, hey, can I ask you a couple of questions? And sure enough, he was super nice, answered all my questions, and if I decide to move forward with it, then I already know one of my neighbors.
People always look at me like I'm just absolutely crazy. If we're out showing a property and we see somebody walking and I don't know the neighborhood that well, I'm going to go up and talk to somebody. And so sometimes, the buyer clients and stuff will be like, oh, you're not going to go. Oh, you are. Okay.
Oh, this is happening.
We always get some really good insight because the neighbors know exactly what that neighborhood's about. And you can't dig up enough information that's going to match what a neighbor that's been living there for 3+ years will be able to tell you about it.
Meanwhile.
So talking about neighbors and neighbors.
Sorry, try again. I got distracted and just squirrel.
Speaking of neighbors, because, neighbors are typically part of your HOA, do you want an HOA? Do you want a gated community? What type of amenities are you looking for? Are you that type of person who's like, no, I just want to be left alone. I don't need anything. I'm not going to be talking to anybody at the community pool. I just want my space, and I don't want anybody to talk to me about my trash cans being by the road. Or are you like, I like it when everybody's grass is super green and manicured to the same level, and I like all the white picket fences to look the same, and I like to know all of my neighbors when I go to the community pool. pool or to the dock or to the deeded access beach and have a clubhouse and some gyms right there on the premises without ever having to leave. Different lifestyles for different folks. So consider what you're looking for in your life, your home experience, if you will.
So that's a great point. Adding the type of amenities that you want to your list is also very important because there is a super, super wide variety of different types of neighborhoods in our areas. I mean, we have neighborhoods that are golf course communities, as most, communities have one or two of those. We've got a ton of them because we're in Florida. And we have some that's their only amenity. But then we've got other ones that they also have a recreation center with the golf course or without the golf course. And in the recreation center, like we have Holly by the Sea, one of the greatest recreation centers I've ever seen. It's something like, I don't remember, it's like 9 acres or something crazy. And we've got a video up. We'll post it up here in the little annotations up there for you. But yeah, it's got like a pool, a dock. It's got 2 different waterfront areas, one to launch a boat and another one to just sit on a dock right there on the Sound. It's got RV parking and tracks and 2 pools, a gym, so that's an example of something in HOA that has a lot of amenities. And then you've got some without an HOA at all that have no amenities. We've got a couple of parks maybe, and that's about it. So finding that middle ground, what do you want? If you've got a pool in your backyard, do you really want the rec center and everything else that has, do you need it? And if so, well, then that's something that you should definitely add to your list.
Or you like me and you're like, I don't want to take care of that, so give me the community pool. I'll go use that and never have to fish leaves out of it.
And a lot of people like doing that, so if you've got certain hobbies that you like, or what have you, then that's definitely a pretty good option too. Oh, and then you've also got neighborhoods that have things like walking parks, bike trails, and then you've got master plan communities that are going to have shopping inside of it and grocery stores and an entire, all of that. We've got one being built right now in Niceville. It's absolutely stunning. The houses are beautiful there, and they're going to have a little bit of everything. They're not fully done building yet, but we have other neighborhoods like this out in Destin, Miramar Beach. So, take your pick of the amenities that you're looking for.
Well, I think that about wraps it up, and maybe I'm going to go look at some houses now.
Yeah, that sounds good. See ya.